Hi everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Your Best Self. I'm Dr. Stephen Davidowitz, also known as Dr. D. But like you, I am so much more than my profession. I'm a husband, a dad, a wellness advocate, a native New Yorker, and as a dentist, I know the most important thing in life is a smile. In this show, we will cover everything from food and wellness to fashion and pop culture. So I am here for the next 30 minutes to share some helpful information for your life, your well-being, and to help make you feel like your best self. Let's get started. Actress Dedee Pfeiffer has returned to television after a 10-year absence. She is currently starring on the David E. Kelley series, Big Sky, and she joins us now. Welcome, Dedee.
Hi, Dr. D.
So Big Sky, the series, is the creation of your famous producer brother-in-law, David E. Kelley. How did your role come about? And did you have to audition?
Well, that's a great question, actually. Yes and no. I was in the middle of finishing my last year at the master's program at UCLA as a master's of social work. I've been spending 10 years in the academic field trying to get degrees to help people. And I didn't really know how I was going to survive as a social worker on that salary when out of nowhere, my brother-in-law, literally, right, out of nowhere, my brother-in-law texts me and he's like, "Hey, I got this role for you. I think that's really great for you on Big Sky, this show that I'm doing. Are you still acting?" I was like, "Yeah." "Oh, you bet I am." So that's how that happened. Now, because the network and the studios hadn't seen me in 10 years because I took off to go get educated and try to help people, I did have to go in and read, and they put me on tape to see that, I still could act. So I did. So it was an offer, but I did have to read. Yeah.
So interesting. Tell us a little bit about your show and your role as Denise Brisbane on Big Sky.
Well, Big Sky is a crazy roller coaster ride. If you've seen the first season, if you haven't, you can get it on Hulu. It's, I like to say we are like dangerous. We're naughty. We're cliffhangers. We bring in characters, amazing actors to guest star, and they kill each other, or we kill them, or somebody gets killed, and you never know who, you never know how. It's emotionally charged. It's a very fast-paced show. And in all of that, Denise is the rock.
You took off a decade, you mentioned, off from Hollywood. Would you share a little bit more about that time in your life?
I hit a point in my acting where I felt like I wanted to do more in the world versus be an actress and do a ton of volunteer work. I was raising two boys on my own, and it was a time where at least then, actresses, if we aged, we didn't get jobs. If we started getting aging, we were unemployed. Whereas men got chubby and wrinkles and gray and pudgy, and they became more sexy and somehow got more employed. And I thought, well, that's a message that I'm not sure if I want to really show my boys that this is fair is the word I'm thinking, right? So I thought, well, you really do want to help people. So I went back to school. Well, hold on, let me correct myself. I went to school for the first time in my life, which is why it took me 10 years, because I graduated in 82. Dinosaurs were still walking. There was no thesis. I didn't know what a 2 + X = 5 to me was a typo. I'm like, why is there an X in that math equation? They're like, oh, Lord, this girl. Yeah, I really had a ton of prerequisites. I had learning disabilities I didn't know I had. So it was a huge discovery of self, to be able to go back to school and discover that I wasn't stupid, which is what I was told growing up. But I had learning disabilities. And once they were, accommodated, I started getting A's.
You're very open about your ongoing recovery and struggles with addiction. It is so important for others to hear. What helps you be so comfortable and open about this part of your life?
Well, Dr. D, I'm really glad you brought that up, because I do. Anyone who's heard my interviews, I'm always doing interviews for Big Sky, but I always slip in addiction. Hi, Dedee Pfeiffer, nice to meet you. I'm in recovery, 3 years sober. It's because it's so important that we talk about it. Recovery is not easy. It's messy. Recovery is messy, whatever addiction that you may have. For me, for so many years, to get sober in my 50s, going through menopause, went to rehab, left my children behind for a month, and did intensive inpatient, was very humbling, very difficult. But if I didn't, I was eventually going to just die like most people, because you're slowly killing yourselves, And I was a high functioning alcoholic, high functioning. So we're real slithery, we're real tricky. We're smart. There's a way to talk your way out of the problems that you're having with addiction. And there was shame around it for me, a lot of shame. I didn't want to admit I had a problem. Didn't want to admit that I couldn't control, that I couldn't stop, that I needed help. So now for me to come out and say, hey, it's okay to talk about it. But it's still hard. I understand why people on the set will come up to me and quietly say, hey, I'm 30 years sober. And I'm like, hey, why are you whispering? Because there's still shame around it. There's still social stigma. So that's why I'm loud about it, in the hopes to be maybe an example of, look at you and I. I mean, you didn't raise an eyebrow. We're having a conversation about it. You're not judging me. You don't think differently of me. Hopefully you might think, oh, wow, she's really leaning into something that's really hard for so many. And it's my way of supporting other people out there who are still struggling, for sure.
Remarkable. Dedee, it was such a pleasure. Thanks for joining us. When we come back, things will get a little caliente as we break in our kitchen set and are joined by acclaimed executive chef Saul Montiel for Mexican Two Ways. You don't want to miss it.